convention, are you confirming you cannot attend?
Yeah, I won't.
Then we gotta see if Daniel can be recording.
All right.
Oh yeah, we'll take care of that.
James isn't going to convention.
Okay. We are.
Friday.
It's 10:11. I'd like to call this meeting to order. All right. So I'm going to share my screen here. Share my screen. Let me remember how to do this. I want to share this one. And I'm going to optimize for full video. And I hope the people out there can see this nice big blank screen. And I'm going to, what did I just do now? I'm going to do this. Okay. All right. So on the screen, you should see the agenda website page, and I have just added, and you can go here on your phone, oahuademocrats.org/agenda. And the important thing that we need to cover today, the most important thing that we need to cover today is the standing rules for the upcoming convention. Okay, it's got to be done today. Everything else is kind of secondary. But anyway, so you can take a look at that. In the meantime,
Excuse me, Chair?
Yes.
I think the microphones are off.
Oh.
I have somebody saying they can see us but can't hear anything.
All right. Well, it says it's on.
My sound works fine over here.
All right. Sound works. It seems like it works. Something about my screen. I can't see what's going on over there. I might just have to turn around. All right. Let me put this back up. All right. So go ahead, James. Take roll.
All right. District 51 Chair Corey Rosette. District 50 Lynn Sager.
Here.
District 49 Betty Vega.
She's on the phone, but she can't hear us. And I think it's because she might be calling in this line. Can
Well,
I unmute that?
Yeah, unmute it. Yeah.
District
Unmute
48
it.
Bill South.
Well, sure, whatever. Yeah, you can do that.
Are we sure everybody can hear? Yeah. District 47 Jesse Palmer. District 46 Malia Britton. District 45 Melissa Long Boris. Sorry. Yeah. District 44 Benjamin Gates. District 43 Mark Yearly. District 42 Mike Golia. District 41 Eric Schrager. Here. District 40 Alicia.
What is with James?
Say again.
James Mateo.
James Mateo.
And that's no longer.
Oh. Can I spell your last name? M-A-T-E. District 39 Richard Oshiro.
Here.
District 37 Danielle Bass. District 36 Trish LaChica. District 35 Cindy Bond. District 34 Teo Takayama. District 33 Lorna Strand.
Here.
District 32 Chase Shigemasa.
No, there's a new one.
That's Radiant Cordero.
Radiant Cordero.
Oh, District 31
Oh,
Debbie
they-
Shimizu.
Does mine say? Mine still says the old guy. Yeah, I gotta fix that. Oh, she didn't get an email then.
Debbie's here. District 30 Ernesto Ganadin. Sunny. District 29 Ernest Carvalho. Yeah, he's here. District 28 Susan Young. Susan Young. No. District 27 Dan Curran. District 26 Kainoa Rego.
Yo.
District 25, Morgan Bonnet.
Bonet.
Bonet. Here, no. District 24, Ian Ross. I got the proxy, yeah.
Yeah, his brother Carlin.
No relation.
District 23, Mark Tom.
Here.
Got it. District 22, Janine Jones.
Here.
District 21, Emmanuel Zebakalan. District 20, Will Karen. Caron. I take it you're here? I think I mess your name up every time. I apologize.
Are you doing it on purpose?
District 29, John Choi. District
19.
Oh yeah, District 19, sorry. 29 is Ernest. District 18, Cynthia Jarrell. Jarrell.
Here.
Yeah. District 17, Nick. Come on, Kapraski.
Cuss.
Hmm.
The C is pronounced like a S.
Region 9, Natalia. She's here. We got her. Region 8, Rich Medeiros. Region 7, Sam Pulitasi. Sir. Region 6, Layla Mom.
Here.
Region 5, Brent Toyama.
I'm here on the phone.
Hey, Brent, was that you?
Yep, that's me.
Region 4, Ben Park. Region 3, Ken Farm. Yeah. Region 2, Kat Kogel.
I'm here.
She's here. Region 1, Donald. Not going to say her last name. SEC male rep, Alan Burdick.
Here.
SEC female rep, Juanita Kawamoto. Treasurer. County Treasurer, Katsu Chang.
Did you say Aaron Fernandez?
I'm here.
Secretary.
Vice Chair, Dylan Armstrong. He's here. If I messed up your name, forgive me.
All right. Okay, we have two sets of meeting minutes we have to look at. The first one is September, let's look at September 22nd. Does anybody have any edits, corrections to September 22nd? Oh, there's more. Oh, that's just an announcement. Yes.
I'm just briefly glancing through it. Does it give a timeline by which you have to
Oh, yep. You are?
lay Mount Region 6? I'm just glancing through this now, and is there anything in it that stipulates by when you have to submit the names of the delegates and that type of thing?
Is delegates
Names
for
of
what?
who's-
For the
For the
convention?
convention?
Okay, those are in the bylaws. They're in the bylaws.
Do you assume everyone
don't-
reads the bylaws and know where to look for it and understand?
You don't submit names for delegates. The delegates from last time are delegates.
No,
for
but if that person is changed to a different district, they're not gonna be representing that district again. And if you have extra space, there should be allowances for that district to add extra people into it that
Yeah.
didn't go last time.
Yes. You know that's it depends on the person. Depends on what their. It depends on how they became a delegate, and you know that's it's in the bylaws, and it's yeah I can what is it? It's in the Oahu County bylaws.
Can that thing be kind of submitted to all the district chairs and the region chairs to clarify procedure and like what deadlines by which they because you can't go by assuming all the people that went to the last convention will be there.
You know,
With no
okay.
new people.
Oh, okay, yes, that's not a medical question. Okay, all right. So we'll get to that when we get to the when we talk about the convention bylaw, standing rules. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, minutes are approved as submitted. All right, very good. Let's go to the next set of minutes. November 24th. Okay, so this is old business. Oh, no, just are there any corrections? Okay, this is old business, which unfinished business, and this was not unfinished business because it was not business in the last one. So anyway, so okay, but so this was new business. Huh? So a correction, you have to change old business. You should put the old business section down into the new business. And well, but it was never started business.
Old business is not a term.
Yeah, no, I know that.
Use.
No, but
Unfinished business or new business.
yeah, it's new business because it's not unfinished business because it was never started. Yeah, okay. So this should be put down into new business, this section here, because we never talked about it before in a previous meeting, did we?
I wasn't there for that meeting.
Okay, okay. Yeah. Okay, so yes, so that's one correction. And then are there any other
Can you scroll up, please?
this way or the
Up
other
to the top.
to the top?
I believe these minutes do not include identification of the roll call. And I object to
There's
that.
the roll call here.
Okay, it's there in the,
It is.
okay, it's attached.
All
to
right,
the-
same with the other one.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Anything else? All right, new business.
Assistant treasurer, not assistant treasurer.
Although she is a treasurer.
That's true.
Typo.
Yeah.
We will fix that.
Do we need to make a motion for technical edits?
No, we don't. All right. You don't do any motions for minutes. All right. Are there any other corrections?
No corrections. No.
Okay, hearing none more corrections, the minutes are approved as corrected. To be corrected. All right, what's next? Let's go back to the agenda. Okay, reports.
Treasure report.
Oh, I guess I'm first. Okay, all right, yeah, because I missed that last time. Let me go back to here. I, as you know, I'm the invisible treasurer. And we started the month with 14,604 in the combined complete fund. And then we had $25 in revenues coming in. Thank you for all these recurring folks. We had disbursements, quite a bit of disbursements. And we are left with this amount, only about 12,000 in our full complete account. However, 3,100 of that is set aside. So right now the available OCC balance is a lowly $8,700. I think we're going to have to hold off on a little bit of spending until we start finding out what the convention is, and we should. I'm hoping that the standing rules for the convention will be approved today. That way I can pop up the registration form, and there's a lot of folks that just come in early and start registering, and that'll kind of build up that fund. So very good. But don't worry, it'll be at least that amount and probably more, should be more when the convention's over. Yes, Lay.
Lay Lerman, Region 6. Just, I think you have a typo error in the treasurer's report. It should be 2019. January
Oops,
2019.
oops. Yes. I swore I fixed that. I think I'm not putting up the, yeah, okay, that'll be corrected. All right. Are there any other corrections to the treasurer's report? All right, very good. What's next?
Convention.
Yeah, let's go to the convention standing rules. All right, so we're going to spend a little bit of time on this.
We do have additional convention business to discuss.
Okay. Let's just try to get these approved with corrections first. All right, so I'm making contact with the schools and everything, we did, Moanalua High School did confirm with us that we can use their facility. So this I hope is fine. May 4th is the first Saturday after the legislature closes. One reason why we chose May 4th is because in even years, it's got to be 3 weeks before the state convention, and we like to have it after the legislature closes so the legislators can come, and that leaves Saturday, that first Saturday in May is the only day. So that's where that day comes from. It's what it's been traditionally, so I hope that's okay. We have found, I was wrong on this. I thought that the price for the convention was a very elastic. In other words, if its price is lower, way more people sign up. Well, that one year that I was not too involved in this, and you folks raised up the fee to 45, and we got just as many people signing up. So I thought we'd raise it up again or keep it higher simply because. What was my reason for that? Well, because we need, I don't want to leave the treasury dry when I leave my term. Many of you have heard this before, but when I came on as treasurer back in 2008, we had no money in the account, and we had $400 for the bills. And so I personally lent the county $400 and went on this monthly sending out postcards to raise money, and we were able to get it back up again. And then when it was our time, when we decided to rethink the convention and make it so money coming in was more than money going out. It never was that way before. You recall we used to have our convention like at the Wahoo County Club and stuff. That's what sort of set us on the right track. But anyway, so I'd like to leave the next chair with a good amount there. So that's why I've raised it up to that's why my suggestion is raise it up to 40. Are people okay with that? Huh? Oh, you want to raise this number to 50? 40, and then after the late, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
And the reason we need that is because we need to know, we need to tell the caterer an amount, a number, and we need to do a bunch of planning stuff. So, all right. So April 20th, the tradition we adopted this recently. 2 weeks before the Saturday convention, we have our precinct meetings. I mean our committee meetings. And I've sent in the application at Kyle Middle School, called them a couple times. The vice principal is very busy, traveling a lot. They are quite sure that it's not a problem on that day, but the vice principal will return on Tuesday, and the secretary promises she's going to call me back. I believe her, and so I'll hear Tuesday. But I thought we'd take a chance, assume that that's okay, same as last time. All right, I thought we could do away with the USB drive submissions, do everything by email. So that's why I've crossed all this out. And we have, these are, okay, then we've made some changes that Dr. Pewitt has suggested. We had platform planks here. Floor submissions on May 4th will be considered only by a 2/3 vote, and you need to submit paper copies as well. Leimomi made the excellent suggestion that we just keep the font the same for both bylaw suggestions and whatever the other thing is. Yes.
And I wanted to make a note about that. This might seem very minor. We're reading a lot of documents on screens digitally. Fonts like Arial and Helvetica are superior for reading digitally because it's easier on the eyes. When you're reading in printed paper, Times New Roman is easier because the serifs help the eye quickly tell what the letter is. So for a lot of people who are going to be reading those documents in a very busy environment with a lot of distractions. I personally would recommend that the submissions be in Times New Roman because most delegates will actually be seeing the materials to be voted upon in printed form at the convention with competing things for their attention. And that might be the best thing to do for the delegates, in my mind. So I would propose that it all be Times New Roman, but if not, all Arial is.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Times New Roman is better for printed material.
The only other consideration is that this it's not a deal this year.
The state rules.
Yeah, the state rules use Arial by and large. So.
So the state uses Arial by and large, but that's not an issue this year. So it might be next year. So should we entertain a motion for this? Okay.
I mean, you can.
Okay.
Right. Actually, there should be a motion to use
These
with the amendments.
Yep, you're
without
right.
objection. But
So
that's how formal you are.
So I move that we accept the proposed draft convention standing rules for 2019.
Okay, and then we're just we should have done that
We need
before,
a-
right?
we need
An
a
hour?
second.
Second?
And then we can discuss.
But at this point, if there's any changes to this, then you
Amendments. Okay. So Dylan is proposing an amendment that we instead of having everything Helvetica, we have everything Times Roman. Is there a second? That's a motion. Is there a second to that? All right. Discussion. Yes.
Times Roman or Times New Roman?
Times New Roman. Times New. Thank you.
Point of information, Chair, can you put the standing rules on your screen, please?
Am I not sharing my screen? Maybe I'm not sharing.
You're
no?
sharing the screen, but it's on like the county page, the website.
All right, let me just stop sharing and start sharing again. We'll see what's going on. Sure.
I'm blaming the Russians.
So Dylan, are you saying it should all be Times New Roman and?
Kat, can you see it now?
Arial and Helvetica?
Yeah, thank you.
Very good, thank you, Kat.
Yeah, that's my preference.
And everyone else out there, thanks you too. All right, so
We don't.
This is.
yes, Juanita.
I wanted to find out if we could clarify, is that 11 point or 12?
It says on the.
Okay, it says 11, but you know I like bigger, better. So it's
Consideration. If you have a resolution, and it's 12 point, and it has to be one page. Then it's going to, you're going to be more limited than if you have 11.
okay. Yes, there is a limit. So 11. The answer is 11. Yeah.
It's 11, but you're just trying to be consistent because in various areas you have 11 in one place.
Okay, it'll be 11 everywhere. It'll be Times Roman, Times New Roman, 11 everywhere. That's the amendment. Yes, yes.
You know, Times New Roman 11 is awfully small for those of us who are getting a little senior. It's already a smaller font than the equivalent font when it has the 11 number.
Okay.
12 is actually quite small the way it is.
Okay.
It should be 12 for Times New Roman. I mean, 11.
Okay.
So Times New Roman 12
Okay.
is comparable to 11 Arial.
All right.
Works
Okay.
for me.
Okay. So so is that an amendment to the amendment? No. I was just modify the amendment.
12 point
Okay.
Times New Roman.
Okay. So the amendment is 12 point Times New Roman. Is there any more discussion? Is there any objections? Okay, hearing none, it is Times New Roman 12. We will fix that. All right, very good. So Times, yes.
I also have a motion to amend Rule 8, which currently lists proposed resolutions, proposed platform, and proposed bylaws changes. In keeping with the excellent comments from Chair Lemomi from the Hawaiian Affairs Caucus that we should have a proposed affirmative action amendments section to Rule 8, a Section D that is stylistically the same as the preceding sections, but deals with proposed affirmative action amendments versus bylaws, platform, or resolutions changes. That way there's consistency of process.
Okay, that was what Lemomi sent me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was sort of in this section. I kind of so yours
We're not there yet.
So I guess we're not there yet, but when we get there, we will. Okay, I think we maybe are there now. Okay. All right. So how do I?
A new section?
Yeah, a new section. Yeah. Okay. So I got to bring that up, but I don't want everybody to see my screen. So I'm gonna.
Well, I have it on mine. I have it on mine. I just can't share it with you.
All right. I'm gonna. All right. Hey, Kat. Can you see? What are you seeing now, Kat?
Everybody in the room. Hi.
Okay, good. All right, so let me bring up Lemomi's and it was her last email. And let me pop this bad boy down there, and let me return to sharing my screen. Share this one. Share. All right. So which one was that? If I can make this, can I make this? So
Block paste that.
I think it would be, oh, sorry, Chair, this is Erin Fernandez. I think it would be added as a Section D.
What did she say?
Can you repeat that, please?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. It's just that you're
Sorry, I must,
kind of muffled.
I think that it would be added as a Section D.
Yes.
We should get the language.
Okay, so
Do you want to read it?
Yeah. I can just read it out loud.
okay.
Proposed Section D, proposed affirmative action amendments recommended by the Affirmative Action Committee shall be considered for adoption in gross in the form in which they were recommended for adoption by the Convention Affirmative Action Committee, unless a delegate who opposes adoption of an amendment as recommended moves to consider separately that amendment prior to the vote taken for adoption in gross of the remaining amendments. The delegate who calls for such separate consideration of a recommended affirmative action amendment shall be recognized first to speak against and/or offer an amendment to the specified amendment. Very redundant.
I don't see. So was that included in the email? That are you looking at something else? Because I don't see that in any of this. Oh, you just wrote that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Based on the recommendation that we had in the email discussion.
So can you summarize essentially what the difference would be with the rest of them?
It's not so much a difference so much as we're including affirmative action amendments in the same process that we're already going to do with bylaws, rules, and resolutions, which people can already see in the proposed standing rules. We're just adding a provision for affirmative action to have the same process.
Okay, sounds good. Is there a second?
You're the lawyer. I don't know.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay,
Erin Fernandez, second.
Okay. All right, so we're going to do the same thing for platform. Should we? Yes?
Does your version of the proposed standing rules also have a section for platform? I thought there was a B, and C.
B is platform.
Yeah, B is platform.
B is platform.
Okay, there was concern that platform had been
In the first draft.
Yeah.
So can I? How about recommended by the convention committees? How about if we just make all the committees amendments like that? Oh, hold on.
One thing that's a little different from the way affirmative action has worked as opposed to the others, right? Or certainly platform and bylaws. It's that platform and bylaws presumes that there is the existing platform, the existing bylaws continue unless amended, all right? Whereas affirmative action has traditionally been an all-new document from scratch. There's no presumption that the previous affirmative action, it was usually a report, okay, would continue in its form. They would start from scratch. Now, that doesn't mean it's not appropriate to consider amendments, but the process for amendments should probably be also one where, and I think we've just handled that way in the past. If there were an amendment to be proposed, they would have, it's not a separate consideration so much as they move, the affirmative action committee moves their report, right? And then while after that's been moved, anybody can move an amendment. All they need to do is bring up the amendment form, right? But you're not taking the previous report and then revising the previous report, because often the affirmative action report is brand new. Is a document that did not rely.
Yes, Leimomi.
Yes, may I comment, please?
Yes.
I know that typically happens what parliamentarian is saying at the state level, but for Oahu, if we go to the website, we will find that there's an affirmative action plan that's posted 2010. Every report after that, almost every report after that, up to 2016, amended the plan. It amended it. Although, you know, like parliamentarian Pruitt is saying, is typically you rewrite the whole thing, which is
good. That's a good point. Then
but
the language should be planned. If amendments, proposed amendments to the affirmative action plan, then you can treat it the same way. That presumes the plan continues and just seeks with amendment.
Can we just go with that unless there's an objection?
That's fine with me. Okay. Is there any further discussion on this excellent amendment? All right. Are there any objections? Hearing none, you're going to get us some language on that.
Yep.
Okay, very excellent. Very good. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. So
Hi.
Yes.
Oh, hi, this is Radiant Cordero, HD 32. Just wanted to announce that I'm in here.
Oh, thank you. You know, I'm sorry, I haven't made the adjustments yet, so you probably didn't get an email. So Radiant Cordero.
Yeah.
Our new his House District 32 chair, district chair.
Thank you.
Thank you for finding out about this meeting somehow and calling in. Oops. All right. Okay. So all right now. Yeah. Oh, all right. So I have to ask the parliamentarian question. Okay. Leimomi is I appointed her vice chair, head of the Affirmative Action Committee. So she's a member of the committee. She cannot vote. However, but she can participate in the conversations. Yeah. Can she make motions?
Well, the way the committee motion does not need a second, and it can be moved by the reporting member of the committee, so long as there are at least two people who are voting members that are on the committee.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Fine. Great.
Committee motion.
Now, but these might not be committee motions, but let's take them up anyway. I'll take them up. Okay. So, no, it wasn't. It was Leimomi, right? Yeah. Leimomi wanted to know why a candidate cannot run for more than one office, and her argument was Robert's Rules handles that. So first I'd like to ask the parliamentarian if he recalls why we have it the way. I think I know why, but why we have it.
It's not in the bylaws.
Oh, is it in the bylaws?
I don't know. I better check. I mean,
Okay.
Professional, do some research.
Okay, all right. So if it's in the bylaws, then we cannot.
But I can explain Roberts if it's not in the bylaws.
Okay.
Okay, so in Roberts, when you have an election, particularly when you're using a ballot where you're voting a bunch of people, okay, you can be a nominee for more than under Roberts, just alone, okay, unless the bylaws say something. You can be a nominee for more than one office, okay, but ordinarily you can only be elected to one of those offices, and I think that's pretty clear. So what happens after an election, for instance, the classic example would be the chair and the vice chair, right? So you could be a candidate for chair and for vice chair, right? And under Roberts, right? And so, and then if after the election, if somebody gets elected from the ballot for both, right? They choose. They can say, you know, I want this, and at that point, you have to redo the election for the vice chair, right? So some groups will disallow that, or their bylaws will, because they don't want to rerun the election, and it's a question of time more than anything else. But Robert says you'd have to provide for that somehow or another in your rules if you're going to make that the limitation.
All right, so we need to find out if it's in our bylaws or not.
I'm looking now, I'm not seeing
Okay.
anything right away.
Would it be acceptable that if we are not prepared to discuss and vote on this now, that we could later amend the standing rules after adoption?
That would be in March.
It'd be in our county bylaws, right?
That'll be section.
All right, so let's, while these folks are checking on that, let's go to the next one.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Chair. It seems to me that however you're doing this, beginning on the middle of the third line, that should be a separate paragraph. See, the sub 9 right now has a heading, regional chairpersons. And the first two sentences discuss how regional chairpersons are elected. Then from the third one on, those sentences deal with other things.
Okay.
Or at least some
okay,
of it does.
okay,
And
all right.
it just needs
I'll make
to
that
be
correction.
broken out.
I think there should be
I can't hear you.
I think there should be lots more paragraphs, but I resisted doing it just because I didn't want to start getting into that. But if anybody has no objections, I will go ahead and make those changes. There could be some other places like that where the actual heading of the paragraph is more reflective. Yes.
If I may then, to clarify,
Mhm.
that third sentence, the one that's under discussion right now,
Yes.
OCC members
Yes.
shall not hold more than one office
Yes.
nor be candidate for more than one office. That is independent of the discussion of regional chair.
That's correct.
Needs to
I
be
agree.
pulled
Yes.
out.
Yes. So it'll be 10.
I think the rest of it probably can hold together, it seems to be.
Okay. So are you writing? Are you getting all this down? Someone's got it. Someone's got it.
I'm gonna make them give me theirs too.
Huh?
I'm gonna make them give you that.
Okay. Very good. Okay, so the second question that affirmative action Chair Lomomi had was nominations shall not be accepted from the floor. So, wait a second. Oh, then that's gonna mess up our election. That'll.
Well, and ordinarily you don't need to say that if there is a requirement to, you know, a deadline and also a petition. So if you have a petition that has to be in at a certain time period, I think that's the case for the chair. Okay, then there's no nominations from the floor. It's basically going to be the way it is, right? So, yeah, the election issues I think are all resolved in the bylaws someplace or another. So we prepare ballots, I think.
Yeah, we do prepare
So, yes,
ballots,
so, and that's based on people putting in an application, and which, you know, so to the extent that there is a requirement to put in to nominate by petition by a certain date, then that automatically means there are no nominations from the floor.
Yeah, redundant.
Okay, you have a comment, Emily?
Yes, mahalo. My questions were not meant as recommendations to change.
Yeah.
I raised the questions to cause us to think about why we have that particular policy. So, you know, the question of what's the rationale for not allowing nominations from the floor? I was curious about that because there's pros and cons to that. I mean, the pro is, for example, what if you had nobody running? You'd have to take nominations from the floor, I think. Or it may be for some organizations, you know, they have difficulty attracting people to come. So on the day of the meeting, you know, I might go up to Natalie and say, come on, Natalie, we need to have these nominations. And I am able to do that on that day. So that's the pro. The con is it's hard on the elections committee because they would have already prepared the ballots. And so now, you know, you got to amend the ballot and you have to have extra space to put those names.
Any person who wishes to be a candidate for chairperson, vice chairperson, secretary, assistant secretary, treasurer, assistant treasurer, blah, 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 shall file nomination papers at least 10 days prior to the county convention. The nomination papers shall be signed by no less than 10 members of the Democratic Party. That's a bylaw requirement. So we cannot change that in your convention rules. It would have to be a bylaw change.
Is that in our bylaws, Oahu County bylaws?
Yes.
Yeah,
It is?
page 7, section 4, or excuse me, section 5. Eligibility in election.
Yeah, 5.1.
Alan.
Yeah, inquiry for clarification purposes. What is the mechanics? What are the mechanics of filing nomination papers? Mailing to the post office box? Physical, can they be emailed? Given the mess we have in the city council election, I think we need to be as clear as we can about things like what constitutes filing.
Yes, agreed. Because in the world of like insurance, you can have something legally delivered if it's inside of the mailbox. So I think we need to establish something like that.
So what currently is the understood manner? I don't remember.
Any way you want, as long as you get it into the to people into the county. So if you want to make a rule about that, you know, that's not a problem because it doesn't conflict with your, you know, this. Then it'd be an expansion. You could add that into your standing rules. You know, that if you want to say it has to be written in blue ink, you know, and so forth, and submitted to, you know, this particular officer in person or by hand. I mean, you could add all those things in theoretically, as long as they don't contradict the requirement in your bylaws.
There's nothing in the bylaw defining filing.
I don't see it. I mean, you know, gosh.
I don't recall.
I know.
I don't think so.
You may think that I've had these things memorized, but actually I do not. Okay, so I'm reading them the best
He has
I
all
can.
these bylaws in his head. You gotta keep them straight. Yes, Natalia. Region Chair.
Natalia Hussey, Verdict Region 9. To move things along, can I make a motion that we add to the rules in the nomination section that filing should be accepted? What do you want, email to the chair?
Well, they got the sign. They had to sign it.
Yeah.
I think any way that they get to me, I will accept. You know, photocopied
Or
signatures.
Or should we go to the secretary section?
Usually,
Or the
it's accepted by the secretary. That's just
Yeah.
kind of a
Okay.
practice, but
Yeah.
there's no firm rule on that.
Yeah.
So
Can we add that to say nomination shall be filed with the secretary
for instance,
via email or mail?
sometimes because we have headquarters now, people will bring their nomination papers into the
But that's kind
Democratic
of
Party
inconvenient
headquarters.
for the people on, like, who live in the outskirts of the island, so maybe.
Yeah, but it's even more difficult to get it to him by a certain time because he works full time and he's got different mailbox. I'm the only guy with the mailbox key, so
I think
So-
email
Yeah,
would be best. Would everybody be okay with email?
so
Some people don't have access.
so can't we just
Signatures, you know.
can't we just have it where you got to get it to us by 4:30 on
How about it's just, sorry.
yes.
What about it? I mean, there are permissible ways of getting it to you by hand, by, you know, electronic copy.
Yeah, so the trouble with actually putting that in there is then we got the principles of Robert's principles of interpretation. And if somebody tries to do it some other way, then that's invalidated. So if we don't put anything there, then it's like however you get it to us is fine
So
by a
let's
certain
just
time.
leave it broad, but define who it has to get to. like maybe put in secretary@oahuDemocrats.org.
Or, well, so you're putting a difficult burden on him. I mean, can it be like me or him? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
because me is easy. I got mailboxes all over the place.
That's fine. I just want to know, like, if I was filing a nomination, I need to know who I gotta get it to.
Okay.
Can we put that in the standing rules?
Yes.
Be really nice. Yeah, language. Hoping you guys to do stuff without actual language. That should be in writing.
Okay, the person who was just trying to say something online, can you repeat that, please? Lay.
Lerma, Region 6. I think what's more important is when you receive it and not necessarily how you get it there. So maybe postmarked by a certain date, 10 days before or whatever.
Postmark means it's got to be in the mail. Is there any other comments? Yes. Arlen.
Yeah. Also, I'm not sure how this should be worded in, but you're supposed to give a $10 check also, right?
No, not
That's for
county?
states.
That's just states. Okay. That's not
You got any ideas, man?
How about with the county secretary
or chair
chair before? Is that done correctly? How's that?
U.S. mail or hand
No,
convention. Party headquarters.
For the convention.
Or email.
By mail or email. Is there any other ways? No. What if somebody walks it over and puts it over? What if somebody stops in front of KCC and runs it and pops it in my mailbox?
Yeah, that's too much.
So let's just leave it.
Right there is perfect.
Very good. Okay, so this last rule that probably does deserve conversation. This last rule where the delegate has failed to act on any resolution prior to the scheduled adjournment. Leimomi, would you like to comment? These were your suggestions.
Yes,
please.
I think many of you who have attended the convention are aware that resolutions are the last thing that we deal with. And oftentimes we don't finish all the resolutions. And then somebody will get up and say, well, we haven't finished, so let's do it. I move that all of them be adopted. And yet some of us might have had some problems and had wanted to separate it out. So the proposal here is if it hasn't been acted upon, that those not acted upon will be deferred for action by the OCC at its first quarterly meeting. So my thought on that is a couple of things. One is people work very, very hard on those resos. So rather than just let them die, allow the OCC to act on them. I think, yeah, rather than having them deferred indefinitely, because definitely to the next convention, could be whenever. So I just thought maybe that would be the best way. And then that way, those who had problems with any of those resolutions that weren't adopted at the front end of the committee report in gross, that at least they'd have the opportunity to advocate for passage, and those who had problems with it, you know, try to work through the problems, and maybe there would be amendments.
Dylan.
Thank you, Chair. I very much appreciate the thoughtful suggestion from Chair Khan. I guess my biggest concern would be consistency of information for the delegates. I think that the script or the program for the convention would have to be also amended if we do this, so that the delegates in the room clearly understand that if we don't get through the resolutions in time, that there will be deferral to the next quarterly OCC meeting. That way the delegates are voting and speaking with the same amount of power that we have in terms of understanding the process. Otherwise, it might throw people for a loop because they're not used to that.
Oh, okay. First of all, I want to say, so I'm assuming this is a motion. an amendment, and then so we're in discussion, but you have a comment on the language. Yes.
Okay. So first of all, delegation is not the correct word. Okay. So a delegation is a subset. So like there's a delegation from Region 6, and there's a delegation from within a convention. So you are referring to the delegates or the convention. I'm assuming, so that should be reworded to say either, where the delegates have failed to act on any resolution, okay, or where the convention has failed to act on any
convention.
So, or the convention delegates, if you wish, just to be, but there. And then, so then the second word I have a problem with is the word deferred. That's not a parliamentary motion ever, and the word is postponed. And so deferred has another meaning, which is I don't want to vote on this. I defer to somebody else, meaning that whatever they vote, I'll vote with them. And so that's what deferred means, and it does not mean postpone. Postpone means postpone. So you should use the word postpone and never use the word defer when you mean postpone. Okay. But there is another question that's in my mind about how to do this if I was there to try to help people. So the ordinary way is, let's say there are 30 resolutions received, and the resolutions committee recommends 20. I don't know. So then the way the procedure works is they move the adoption of the 20, right? And the implication is that they decided not to recommend any of the other batch, the 10 that they did not recommend. So the question is, what happens to those 10? And ordinarily, it would be somebody could move it after, the other group, after you've approved the ones that have been adopted or have been recommended by the resolutions committee. So and this question has come up before. What does that mean about the ones they did not recommend, and how can they be brought back? Okay, if they are in the packet and people have had a chance to look at them, which is what we recommend, right, and it was not always the custom in the past, then you should be able to bring them forward, notwithstanding. All right. So, but some people may be content that they don't want to do anything more than that. So, if your language here means that even if there is no motion and there's time left, but there's no motion to bring those ones that were not recommended by the committee, that they can still be revived and adopted as if they were adopted by the convention by an OCC meeting later. I don't know if that's, there really should be a distinction between what the OCC adopts and what the convention adopts. The convention is a much larger body. And so I can see a resolution coming before the OCC after convention, but then the language of adoption should be that the Oahu County Committee, rather than the Oahu County Democrats, adopt this resolution. So just so it's clear, what the deal is. But I would also say that we have yet to have a situation where we didn't finish the resolutions. And the question in my recollections, is only that there are some late resolutions, where the people have brought the 300 copies, right? And in those, there is a preliminary vote to consider them that requires a 2/3 vote because they did not meet the deadline. So, and those, we may not have gotten to those ones that were late resolutions where the 300 copies were sent around. That's kind of a different thing from resolutions that were just not recommended by the committee. And I would think you'd want to separate those two from that in this language. But the bare minimum all I particularly care about is changing the word delegation as it's used here to convention delegates that deferred to postpone.
Okay, Dr. Pewitt, I'd imagine if we did roll over a resolution to the first OCC meeting, then our bylaws providing that it requires 2/3 votes to approve within the
resolutions. Well, first of all, the 2/3 consideration is only for convention and only for late resolutions. Right? So anybody could theoretically, and we've seen this, the same problem with the SCC, in my opinion, comes up. People will ask the SCC to adopt a resolution. And then what should I made the point then, if that's the case, and it didn't go to convention, because convention resolutions identify the party. So convention resolutions say, be it resolved by the Oahu County Democrats, or be it resolved if it's a state convention by the Democratic Party of Hawaii. So to go to the SCC and act for a resolution that the language is, be it resolved by the Democratic Party of Hawaii, is kind of, incorrect in my opinion. It should be, if it's adopted, it should be resolved by the State Central Committee of the Democratic Party of Hawaii, because that's the group that voted on it. So here again, the distinction should be that if it's a resolution, it's a question of, the OCC can do that anyway. OCC can adopt a resolution. It would be the Oahu County Committee, which is different from the Oahu County Democrats. Only the convention can adopt resolutions done by the Oahu County Democrats. Okay. Only the convention should be able to do resolutions by the Democratic Party of Hawaii at the state level. But the SCC is a body, just like the caucuses could make a resolution that is resolved by the caucus of, but not, they cannot employ the larger body, because it didn't go to that body.
Do we need to put something in the rules that would be the committee then taking action and not the?
Got to be the committee. Well, I would, if I'm still around, I would advise that, and as I have in the past with resolutions that come to the State Central Committee, and never went to convention. And because when you post them on the website, they shouldn't have the equal impact or import of a resolution that was adopted by the state convention. If it was only adopted by the State Central Committee. And the same thing would be the case, in my opinion, about the Oahu County. Okay? Then they wouldn't be resolutions of the Oahu County Democrats, which is, one thing, and as opposed to the Oahu County Committee, which is another.
So to summarize, you're saying that we wouldn't even really need to put anything in here because regarding this, because we already have the mechanism in our bylaws to handle these kinds of things anyway?
I would say, yeah. In other words, if a resolution didn't get passed by the convention, what happens to it, right? So that's your concern, right? Can it come to the Oahu County Committee? Yeah, it can come to the Oahu County Committee, but then the language of the resolution would be that this is adopted, if it's adopted by, or by the Oahu County Committee, not by the Oahu County Democrats. So unless you want to me, that's almost a bylaw change. You want to authorize the Oahu County Committee to adopt, or what if it's to rescind the previous resolution? Because some resolutions actually take out a resolution that was adopted by a previous convention. So should the Oahu County Committee be able to rescind a motion by the Oahu County that was done by a previous convention?
Doc, I think that's in 12.2. That's what I was just reading.
Yeah.
Did you see that 12.2 of
You mean
Oahu County bylaws?
Oahu County bylaws.
Yes, Leimomi.
Okay, so for those of you in the room who remember the convention at the stadium,
Yes,
remember that? Okay.
there've been a bunch there.
Yes, all the resolutions were adopted because at the last minute, a person, and I think she knows who she is, got up, and I'm not being critical of that, but got up and moved all the rest for adoption. So that's, yes, it's true. We passed everything now, but was it the right way to do it? In my mind, it wasn't, because when we adopt resolutions, we should be sure that we are informed and we really have given it the time and attention it deserves for discussion.
Slight correction, I didn't move that we adopt all of them. I moved that we vote on them one by one without discussion.
Without debate.
Slight correction. Yeah.
Debate.
Yeah.
Carlin.
If I may, because I do agree that what has been my experience at these conventions, we will oftentimes wind up on one hot topic and spend an inordinate amount of time working in amendments and then amendments to the amendments, and that's just a messy process at the convention. And I do see as was pointed out, that it doesn't carry the same weight as a convention versus a committee resolution. Perhaps language instead to limit the number of sheer amendments so that we don't get just caught up in the minutia of a single bill, not giving the fair time to the others. Because the amendment, they're just putting weight on whatever one comes first in numerical order, not necessarily the importance of it.
So, just to go ahead. It was, my attention was just called to 12.2 in the bylaws. All right. So, the platform and resolutions adopted by the delegates at conventions of the Oahu County Democrats shall remain in full force and effect until rescinded or amended by, and there's two processes, 2/3 roll call vote of the full membership of the Oahu County Committee. Okay. So, or until they come in, or by a majority vote of the convention. So basically, those are the two processes. So it doesn't address resolutions that were not acted, were not reached, right? But I would think if it's going to be a convention resolution, at least similar requirement in order to adopt a convention resolution after convention at the Oahu County Committee should probably follow the same thing, 2/3 vote, roll call vote, blah, 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 according to 12.2. But that's a bylaw amendment, you know, that, what I'm suggesting would be a bylaw amendment. So, you know, trying to do stuff in the convention rules, you have to be careful to the extent that it may conflict. Right? So if it's, you know, you could say it's postponed or it is referred, which would make more sense because postponed implies it will be postponed to the next convention. Okay, so that's why it should be referred to the Oahu County Committee. And at that point, then the bylaws would need to be amended in advance to say that they could take up a convention resolution, which was not acted upon. And that would be good in this section so that it's in the right place.
Dr. Pugh, with your explanation of the word deferred, wouldn't deferred be more appropriate to the county convention, defer to the Oahu County?
Whatever they think. But see, deferred, though, like I say, Proverbs says that it's ambiguous. There's no clarity of what it means. There are motions to refer and there are motions to postpone. If it's a motion to refer, it's going to be as a business item. It comes up necessarily as a business item.
And we could approve that.
And so it'll come on, you know, or if it's deferred, it's like, I mean, who's going to bring it forward? Anybody? I mean, I suppose it's just that you haven't really defined the term refer. It's defer. Not. There's no parliamentary meaning for the word defer. Just simply refer is a much better idea here if it's in line with what you're thinking. So these should be referred to the Oahu County Committee. But then I would say you really need to have language that says they would be treated, you know, not just the ones to rescind a convention resolution or amend, but those that to adopt one that was not reached at convention and had been submitted to convention but not reached.
Ken.
So I just want clarification. So let's say, like, you know, Auntie Momi was talking about, you know, there's some that haven't been voted on. Are they going to be kind of like grandfathered under this type of thing where this package, whatever it is, of now resolutions are going to be referred to now to the OCC, or, you know, because we didn't have time at the, you know, the convention to do it there, so that they're given its proper, you know, time and course, and people can actually, you know, be more maka'ala about it. Is that kind of what we're looking at? And then if it is, then the other question is, when we looking at it, the adoption of the, we didn't have enough time. I know someone brought up the idea of being able to not, you know, having an X amount of amendments. Was that just a suggestion, or Ross, did you bring that up? About having a X amount of amendments?
I mean, I really just think that's where we really start burning a lot of time, is where it's amendment to the amendment, because then it has to go to a full vote. I mean, I think they need more clarity on, you know, resolution as presented, possibly some amendment, but when you start getting into amendments, then we're spending a lot of time on what may not be the hottest, you know, topic of conversation throughout. I mean, just for expedience sake, maybe at that point, defer. If it is truly needs more work, then maybe that would be something someone could move to defer to the committee.
Refer. Art.
Refer.
Yeah. Did I understand Dr. Pewitt to say earlier that we already have a procedure that people can bring resolutions directly to the Oahu County Committee and therefore we don't need the special language. One thing I'm concerned about putting this in the rules is I think it creates opportunities for gaming.
Yes.
If the requirement is suddenly 2/3 of the OCC has to vote for something that otherwise might have passed by a simple majority. And so people will venue shop if they think that they're not going to win on the floor of the convention. They'll try to postpone it, make it last forever, and then defeat it or whatever in the body. So I prefer we not incentivize that kind of gaming. We have enough gaming going on already in conventions.
So, Chair.
Yes.
Comment, please. While I respect what Bart just said, likewise, I feel that the current process, isn't working really well to assure that the resos are thought through and we voted properly on them. So often I see resos that get out and then we've got, and this is probably another issue, but we've got our leaders of our party in the newspaper taking an entirely different position. And we might not have had that full debate on that at the convention. So it's just, for me, it's just a way to save the resos and to get them. The other is to say something like those not acted upon, that the authors can bring it back to the OCC or something like that. But I just feel strongly we need to do something on it.
Is this an active motion?
Because there is gaming in that.
It's an amendment to the, it's her proposed amendment to the rules. Debate is still.
And then after that, just vote. Yeah.
But I wanted to ask, may I ask the parliamentarian a question though, because as the affirmative action chair, I have one more thing that I'm going to recommend, but it would require a bylaws change. So the question is, we have time between now and May, and this body is authorized to make amendments to bylaws, right?
I don't think we have time. I don't think we have time because it's got to be notification. It's got to be in writing today so we can do it in March, and then there's no more meetings after March. Lima.
I'm kind of confused. I feel if a resolution does not get through with the convention, what makes you think that all resolutions should come through somehow? There should be those that people don't like it, so it dies. So you shouldn't try to reconstitute it to make sure it passes. The discussion I'm hearing right now is like any resolutions that's proposed somehow by hook or by crook should be adopted, amended or not. I'd like that clarification.
Okay. Ken, you want comments?
I thought the way we were looking at it was those that we haven't had a chance to discuss yet. So we're taking that, like if we're just basically extending the convention, conversation, but we're now moving it to the OCC, right? Is that how I understand it? Because I don't know if that's how you're, because I think you're talking about all of them, as opposed to ones we never had a chance to.
Yeah, I know that and sometimes when you have amendments to amendments, that means that maybe it's a worthy resolution, but someone didn't do a better job in putting it together. And that you shouldn't deny people the chance to give their input. But what I'm hearing right now is like this body wants to accept all resolutions that are proposed at the convention and save it, even if it's a poor resolution. So I'm a little confused, and I'd like to know, is that the purpose of the convention, is to accept all resolutions that come to them? Or
well, yeah, see, the other thing that we can always do is we can move to adjourn at a later time, which is what we did last time. We just moved to adjourn a half hour later, and I will make sure that we can keep the room till 3 o'clock if we need to.
But a resolution, if it doesn't pass this convention, can't it be proposed the next convention?
Yes.
And put it through? Why doesn't the bills at the legislatures don't all go through?
It doesn't need to be. You're absolutely right. It doesn't need to be.
Okay, that's a waste time part, I think.
Yes.
So sorry, this point of clarification. So are we talking about those that, voted, like say you got voted down, as opposed to those that never got a chance today because of the fact that we focused on these other ones? So
it's the second thing you said. It's the second thing you said. Donald Kelper.
Donald Kelper, Region 1 Chair. Just from from my observations, listening to the discussion, Dr. Pewitt said that, that the proper language that we should use, that if it gets kicked over to the Oahu County Committee, is that we cannot say Oahu County Democrats, it's Oahu County Committee. People already have the option of introducing a resolution to the Oahu County Committee for its consideration. I'm just very wary about encumbering the committee with the obligation of having to hear all resolutions that fail to make whatever, by the end of the convention. That I just think that it's, the way the rules seem to be written already is that, people have the option of bringing it to the committee for the committee's adoption. But we cannot, as a committee, adopt in the name of all Oahu County Democrats. So I just think it's like, leave it the way it is, I think, on there. It's just because I think, that it's just, I just don't think we should be obligating the committee with, with having to hear any resolution that fails to get a hearing at the convention.
Okay, so you were speaking against the motion. Yes, Josh.
Sorry, so this is Josh Frost. I'm not a member of the OCC, but what I as much as I appreciate what Leimomi is trying to do, I think, frankly, if the convention wants to debate a single issue for an hour and a half, and then stuff falls off at the end, like, there should be consequences for not being efficient, right? But I think it should be clear, as Don says, that resolutions that fail to be approved by the convention or don't get proper vetting from the convention, I think the introducer should be made aware that they can rewrite it and submit it to the Oahu County. But I think sending them automatically to Oahu County is, frankly, it's makes it easy for the convention to focus on one thing and then just pawn off to the OCC anything that they don't finish. The work of the convention is important, and I think what's sent there should be done there, or changed and sent to OCC. So that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Martha, go ahead.
Dr. Wood, I just have some points of clarification. How many Oahu County conventions have we had where a motion was made to adopt all of the resolutions because we went too long? Because I know it didn't happen the last time, like you said, we extended the time. I remember the one you're talking about. I don't know what happened before that, but do we have a record of having done that on a regular basis, or was this an exception, this one incident that Leimomi is referring to? Because I remember that meeting, I know why it happened, and all of that can be controlled by the chair in the meeting. So how many times has it happened that we've blanketly accepted a bunch of resolutions?
Just to clarify.
Oh, I have a point of clarification on that. I just wanted to clarify, I was the one who made that motion that we're talking about in the convention. It was a slightly different motion. It wasn't to adopt all of them all at once. It was to vote on them individually, one by one, with no discussion.
No debate.
Close debate.
Close debate.
It was to close the debate.
Okay, so did you have a comment?
Exactly. And that was one point I wanted to raise. The other one is, I do not recall restrictions on how many people may speak for, how many people may speak against, and how many minutes they have to speak, as we have in the state convention. There was a lot of contention in that meeting.
There actually are restrictions. You can only speak twice and 3 minutes, I think.
Exactly.
So we should enforce them.
Somebody for and somebody against. You close debate.
Yeah, so many. Okay, so there are rules, but and I think that
rules, but they weren't as
that's
enforced
correct.
at that
We were not correct. I promise I will enforce.
Exactly. So that incident can be prevented
if I do my job. Right. Okay. All right. So is there any more discussion? Leimomi, did you have something else to say?
I think that, well, let me just say that I appreciate that all
Attention.
this sense
No backups for 16-24 days.
my reasons.
Excuse me.
Hurry up.
No backups for 52 days.
Thank you.
Bill South.
Thank you, Bill South from
Bill South, sorry.
Okay.
And
Go ahead,
so,
Bill.
and so this is what I'm gonna say, is if we don't have any rule on that, what could happen is the same thing. But everybody heard rationale in this room, and I might go through the microphone if somebody makes a motion like that, or even a motion like let's vote without discussion, that I will probably go up and vote against. That's our process, right? Against that motion. But at least you all understand why I feel so strongly about that. I just think we need to make good decisions with informed discussions. So I didn't make the motion, but somebody did. If they have a change of mind, then maybe it's appropriate to withdraw.
Well, we needed a motion to debate it.
To debate this. So the presumption is that it was moved by you, that this particular amendment. And that's what's being debated. So it is appropriate now to make a decision to vote on this particular amendment to Rule 11 agenda.
Is there any other debate? Hearing none. Yes. Oh.
Are you
yes.
changing postponed to referred?
If there's no objection.
Will be referred
But then that makes it automatic referral.
for action in the first quarterly meeting. And so I take this out.
Convention delegates, yeah.
So I take this out. Take this out. So this is the amendment. We're going to amend. The amendment is to add to Rule 11 where the convention delegates have failed to act on any resolution prior to the scheduled adjournment of the convention, that those resolutions be referred for action by the Oahu County Committee at its first, meeting, at its first, might not be quarterly, meeting.
Said by to the Oahu County Committee. So you get referred to.
Two.
Yeah, so change by to two. Where it says by.
Gotta go back.
Should be referred to.
Chair, I think Debbie.
What about, can I make another amendment or a suggestion? What about it may be referred for action, or may be referred by the author for action to OCC?
Okay, well, that's a secondary amendment.
Secondary amendment. Right.
So,
Is there a second?
Does that need a second?
Yeah.
I'll take the second.
okay, so this, there's a second, read the
Okay.
secondary amendment.
Okay, so
May be referred
there
by the
may
author.
be, the secondary amendment is may be referred by the author.
Does that presume the discretion of the chair?
For
Of the chair to.
No, that means that author has may do that. It'd be up to them to do it.
Right.
Take out the word will, we.
Okay, so is there any discussion on this proposed amendment to the amendment? Yes, Donald.
I just say, my previous objections, if you amend it like that, where it becomes incumbent upon the author to introduce the resolution to the Oahu County Committee, I can live with that.
Yes.
All right.
So is there any objection?
Yeah.
Are there any objections to this amendment to the
Secondary
amendment?
No.
Hearing none, the amendment to the amendment is amended.
Okay, so now,
Okay,
the
now,
amendment now reads.
now the amendment now reads, where the convention delegates have failed to act on any resolution prior to the scheduled adjournment of the convention, that those resolutions may be referred by the author for action to the OCC at its first, it's not, the meetings are not quarterly, next meeting, at its next meeting. Next meeting. All right, Kainoa.
Was that anything for you that the rest of the meeting that?
Can you repeat what you said?
So can you say that again so I can repeat it?
We have a meeting right after.
Isn't the next meeting isn't the next meeting right after the convention?
So it's gotta be,
Next regular meeting.
No,
That doesn't count as a regular.
And it's next.
Yeah, there's an immediate.
After
meeting
the
right after
convention.
for
Next meeting.
Organizing.
yes, Lynn.
Do we even have to say at a meeting? We could just say by the author to the OCC, period, because it won't necessarily be that meeting.
All right, that's an amendment to this amendment. Is there any discussion on this amendment? Oh, is there a second? Is there a second? Okay, is there any discussion on the second amendment to the amendment? Is there any objections? Go ahead.
I just want to ask a question. If this alleviates the concerns about possible gaming, because I think that was an important discussion point. you know, just openly to the room, does anyone see this as right, recipe for abuse?
I'd like to ask Bart that question.
I think you already have that right anyway.
Yeah, the right already exists, but no, I think this mitigates the threat of any gaming. So
All right.
I think at the last state convention, there was clearly an attempt to run out the clock, and I want to avoid it.
Okay, okay. Is there any more discussion on this amendment to the amendment? Are there, okay, so are there any objections to this amendment to the amendment? Hearing none, the amendment to the amendment, or the amendment is amended. Okay, so now the original amendment, we're back to the original amendment, where the convention delegates have failed to act on any resolution prior to the scheduled adjournment of the convention, that those resolutions may be referred by the author for action to the OCC at its next meeting.
No.
Taking out
at the OCC, sorry. All right, is there any further discussion? Okay, are there any objections? Hearing none. Motion passes. Very good. All right, that's it. That's it. Is there any other, okay, so are there any other comments on this? Issue? Okay, so Leimomi has one more thing she'd like to say. Go ahead, Leimomi.
Leimomi, use the mic.
So, rules 6 and 15, if you could pull that out.
Rule 6.
Yeah, so you see these voting cards?
Yes.
Okay, so we're all supposed to turn them in.
Yes.
My question is, what's the penalty if we fail to do so?
Okay, that's.
Where's the accountability?
And
the
15.
other is rule 15.
Okay. I saw that, yeah.
Pagers and cell phones, you know. So, okay, so whether it rings accidentally or you didn't turn it off, so what's the penalty? What's the accountability? What would you do? That's all.
Go ahead, Natalia.
A fine.
This is Natalia, Region 9 Chair. I would like to move that we strike this from the rules. I personally use my cell phone to text people halfway across the room to see what they think about a particular reso that we're adopting. Or at the state convention, I frequently text people, you know, across the state, whereas Oahu County might be various people around Oahu County. I would like to just remove this entirely.
Motion to strike. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, discussion. Okay, are there any objections to this amendment? Okay, hearing none. Motion passes. What about 6?
Yeah, so it's struck. So
It's struck. It's struck. Okay, what about 6? This is a little bit more. Yeah, you're supposed to. Well, so all right. So, does anybody want to amend this? Propose an amendment to this rule. Like, what happens if you don't turn your voting cards in? I remember once I didn't turn my voting cards in, and so Alfred scolded me, and I said, "Where do I pay?" And he goes, "Oh, we'll get back to you on that." And then he never got back to me. So it's $10. I didn't have to pay. Oh, I pay him. Okay. Is there an amendment? All right. So so is there a proposed amendment to this rule? Should we make some sort of rule?
I think you should let people be aware. Because I
What is the purpose?
put it in my pocket.
Well,
If it's- if it's the
No,
end of the
it has to
convention,
do
what's the
if a few years later we decide to have the same color and someone brings it, stuffs it in the pocket.
Everyone's want to know what color it is.
No, well, see, yeah, we change the color every year anyway, so yeah, I don't know.
It's like, come on.
Okay, so each delegate must read. This is the thing that we're looking at, wondering if we should have a penalty for that.
I think you should make an announcement there for the people who are not reading all the way through Rule 6.
Yeah, to make sure that they turn it in.
Just remind people,
Yeah.
to turn it in.
And we can have,
I found mine in my
and we all can be cops. If you're walking outside and you see somebody with their voting card, or someone's about to walk out the door or anything like that, we can just say, hey, but I don't know what kind of penalty we would want to, because then there's the enforcement.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? You're gonna take $50 out of my bank account?
Okay, so, yeah, that's right. If you
There's no
pay
way to
by, if you
enforce
pay by credit card, we can just go in and grab another $10. All right, so, there's no amendment. Okay, all right, so what now? What do we do? Move to, okay, so.
Motion is to
the mo-
adopt the rules as amended.
Motion is to adopt the rules as amended.
So, is there any discussion?
Is there any discussion on that? Yes. Juanita.
So, you know, in other organizations I participate in about the card, charge $25.
Yeah,
You don't turn in your card.
that's okay.
And,
They're,
at the end of the convention. And then it's not only, I mean, of course it would benefit, but it really makes people recognize the seriousness of what they do. And so if there are committees involved, the other way we do it is district, other delegates part, the district chair becomes responsible for collecting those cards. They make those people accountable. It's very inclusive. We're gonna pay attention. So I think the fee should be at a minimum $25 and they'll all show up because I can tell you that other organizations, they all sign up. They all show up. They remind everybody there.
Is there a second?
Second.
Add a $25 fine.
Add a $25 fine. All right, is there any discussion? Bart? Yes, sir, I'm recognizing you, Bart.
Bart,
That's you, all right.
Can you still, can explain to me again why it's so urgent that these cards get back if they're not gonna be used the same color next year? If I walk out with it in my pocket because I'm an absent-minded uncle, is that really
$25?
cause a problem to the party in some way that puts anything in the future
Well,
on your
yes.
screen?
All right, yes, Leimomi.
I really think that the reason for that has to do with saving the trees. It's not, you know, when you go to state convention and everybody leaves, all that paper, all the candidate cards and whatnot, they're all left on the table. I know, because I helped to clean tons of it. And so it's a way to have it all disposed if we wanted to in one case. But, you know, you're right. I had the same thought that you did. So what's the big deal? But that's really the deal. I think.
Is there any other discussion? Yes, Ken.
Just constantly remind people on the podium. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
okay.
gotta be a new thing.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
I
it can't be
think
in the rules. I mean, I don't think it can be put in the rules, but just kind of build it into the thing, you know?
I kind of don't
There's a motion on the floor to have a $25
There's a motion on the floor to have a $25 fine. Is there anybody else?
Is that the motion?
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead and then leave then. Yes, yes.
Second time.
So Juanita Kawamoto, one more thing. If we do this, then perhaps we won't have to be changing it all the time because people will still be accountable because you'll be
Well, the years on it and everything.
Yeah.
Well, you also have to sign them, right?
Yeah, it's
So you can't really recycle them year to year.
difficult. Lynn?
Yeah, this is implemented to having the district chairs in charge. I know at state convention, we all sit at the same table. And occasionally you'll have your people at different tables, but you can track them down usually because they know you got to move the table to vote. The Oahu County Convention, there are times where I don't know where my people are because they're at different tables.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the chairs can be held responsible for whether or not their delegates are against.
Speaking against the motion, is there anybody else?
Gotta be individual.
All right, any other discussion?
So just wanted to say to what Lynn said, I meant that $25 in the district chair because when you look at the delegates who are coming from the districts, they're there just to be the reminder. The individual delegate has to be responsible for what they do. So I'm just connecting. There are multiple ways we can assure the forgetful kupuna who puts it in their pocket. If there's 3, 4, 5 people around them saying, don't forget your card, gotta turn it in, or whether you're gonna owe $25, thank you for the donation. So that's my purpose.
Martha?
Quick question, is there any reason why at the beginning of the event, when everyone has settled down and we start, that the chair cannot make a statement asking one person on each table to accept responsibility to collect and clean that table, as in collecting the papers and collecting the cards, And then it doesn't matter who's at the table. We are a group of volunteers, and the people who come to these events are usually the ones who care. I have to believe that one person per table will stand up and say, sure, I'll take the plastic bag, I'll collect the garbage, I'll collect the cards, and then I'll bring them to a central location. Not complicated, not overdone. If you want to add a penalty, that's fine, but I think if you tried to charge someone, they get up on their hind legs and they go yell and scream because they actually showed up to the convention to do the job. So I agree with you, they need to know it, but I'm just asking if that's possible.
Yes, it's possible. You were speaking against the motion then, is that correct?
I have no idea what I'm doing.
Anybody else? Anybody else?
Well, I guess I have a question. We may have to vote on this.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make an announcement. I got to pick up some, I have to go up to the Kitty Pharmacy in Kailua before 1 p.m. to pick up some medicine for my dying kitty, and I got to do that. Well, I got a proxy all ready for me, so I got to end this meeting. I got to end it. I got to get up to Kailua by 1 o'clock. I was telling you that. Go ahead.
Well, I just need to clarify, and I'm not speaking for or against this motion. We have a set of breakdown cleanup committee that needs volunteers, so I don't want to think that it's like a free-for-all. And actually, we do need people to be responsible and help Aaron, myself, etc. And there's a lot of roles for people to fill, so we need to be clean anyway. We need to be orderly when we end the meeting. So I don't think that we should make a fallacy argument about that.
Is there any other discussion on this amendment? All right. Now, okay. Now, so I'm going to ask if there's any objections, and I just want you to know that if there are objections, we have to take a roll call vote. Okay, just want to point that out. Are there any objections to this motion being adopted?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So we do a roll call vote. Someone's got to keep track of this. We are so why don't I'll read the amendment. The amendment is otherwise a $25 fine will be assessed to the okay, so this, let me just, to the delegates, all right, to the delegate. Close debate, have we closed debate? Oh, so you can still speak? Speak.
My only worry is what if somebody has to leave early, they pass off their card. Now somebody else, I don't know, you
can't do that.
First of all, if I lose my card, I mean, that's ridiculous. It's not going to be used the following year, cannot be used the following year. To charge people an extra $25, you're just throwing these penalties on your account.
So you're speaking against the motion.
Can we just do a vote by hand instead of doing the
Oh, yeah, because we're online.
That means those people are.
All right, so is there, he spoke against the motion. Anybody else want to speak?
One question.
Okay, so she gets to speak again.
Who's spoken twice? You're done.
Okay. Okay. Is there anybody else who wants to speak? Somebody online?
Yeah, call the question.
Okay, call for the question. No, we can't do that because we got to vote for calling the question. We got to do a roll call vote for calling the question. So, is there any other? Yes.
I'll just say that. I mean, that's unworkable unless you're going to collect $25 to begin with. Yeah. Who's going to go through and figure out who did it?
Okay, so we could make everybody pay $25, and then when they get their card back, they get $25. You know, you've already spoken twice. All right, go ahead.
We're almost done.
Okay, so, all right, so the amendment is, otherwise a $25 fine will be assessed to the delegate if you don't turn in your voting card. Return the voting card, I guess you return the voting card to somebody, I don't know. Yes. Yeah? Mhm.
We need to vote to extend the meeting because it was on the agenda. So
We didn't vote on the agenda.
All right, okay, so, I don't, all right.
I wish to withdraw, but can we please address this issue? Because to me, the issue with regards to one important fact that came about all of one is the fact that one of the abilities of a person what they do. The fact that we know that car doesn't get shipped.
Doesn't belong to her anymore.
Okay, so then what happens?
We have to vote on this.
Okay, we have to vote on this, and unless there are no objections, no, it's ridiculous.
She withdrew.
But once there's debate, then it's thrown by the.
Okay, she's asking permission to withdraw. You can ask, is there any objection?
Okay.
To granting her permission to withdraw this motion?
That's a good one. Is there any objection to the last amendment being withdrawn? No. Hearing none, the last amendment is.
You have to vote on the whole thing.
Yes, you do.
Final vote.
Final vote on the standing rules as amended. Is there any objection?
No.
Hearing none, standing rules are adopted. Okay, what's next?
We have more convention business.
Okay, more convention business.
So as chair, you have the ability to confirm with the concurrence of the OCC officers for the 2019 Oahu County Convention. You've already appointed both myself and Aaron to be co-chairs. However, various convention committees need confirmed co-chairs. So we have gotten Ken Farm and Lynn Robinson on DERCO to generously volunteer to co-chair rules for the convention. Will Carone has volunteered to co-chair resolutions for convention. Melody Aduha has volunteered to co-chair platform. Leimomi Khan and TJ Jasper have volunteered to co-chair the Affirmative Action Committee. And then James Logue has informed us that he is not going to be able to be recording secretary, so I'd like to ask that Daniel Jacobs serve as the recording secretary for the county convention if he's available.
Daniel, I'll back you up like I did last time.
Perfect.
Very good.
Oh, platform, yeah, and Don Kelper for platform.
I'm okay with all that.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Okay, I recuse myself from investigation committees from now on. So, Alan here?
Right here.
Okay, so Alan, is there something you want to say about the investigation?
Yes, I seriously need at least one additional person to serve on the actual investigation committee for this particular complaint. It's Mary Hackney and Company versus Michael Beloya Jr. The basic essence of the complaint is that Michael Jr., in his capacity as chair of the LGBT caucus, did not properly provide for notice of the caucus election, and as a result, it is claimed that members were improperly denied their right to vote in the caucus election. This was back in August 21. Janine Jones and Martha Randolph have generously given up their time to be members of the committee. I need a third person. I know this is a controversial case. That's why I'm not serving on it myself personally. Otherwise, I would. I I need people who are willing to look at this objectively, willing to say yes, guilty, or no, not guilty, without prejudice. And if you want to, if you're willing to do so, let me know, no later than 5 minutes after the close of this meeting. Need somebody.
I'll do it.
I'll do it.
That was Kat.
This is Kat.
Oh, okay.
All right, very good. Juanita.
So who currently is on the?
I just said Janine Jones and Martha Randolph.
And now,
Kat is volunteering right now.
and I have a point of,
Yes.
my point of order is this particular thing. Is it appropriate that the OCC is responsible for the discussion? Or is it actually the SCC because it's dealing with a caucus?
All right, so yeah, I can comment on that. Let me see. Huh?
It's a point of order, you have to rule.
Oh, it is appropriate that the complaint was against a member in that member's capacity in the position they were in. So it is, and it was filed from a member against a member. So yeah, we at least has to go through our committee. And the state rules committee. That's what they said.
May I reply to that
Yes.
question? Juanita, there is a rules committee statement which may or may not be agreed with by everybody. They took 4 pages. This was Carlos and Cynthia Resendes and their entire rules committee with, I think, 1 abstention, saying basically that if it's a claim against Michael for improper conduct, it is indeed properly within the purview assigned to the Oahu County Committee by the state bylaws. But to the extent that there is a claim that the caucus election should be revisited, that's an issue to be brought before the SCC. Yes, because the caucus is a creature of the state central committee. So 2 sets of issues, two jurisdictions, 2 venues for those to be decided in. That's been, that's a ruling that exists. I have a copy.
There's a
prepared for this
copy
meeting.
posted.
I brought a copy of that ruling. I'm happy to share it with you.
It's posted on the agenda. Yeah. So yeah, there was actually violating 2 bylaws. One was the caucus bylaw, and one was the DPH bylaw. Dr. Pewitt has opined that Article 1, Section 8 does not apply to caucuses or counties. Just DPH bylaws, constitution, and platform. And so if the Rules Committee sort of combined, SEC Rules Committee kind of didn't, just combine them both. Personally, I think that we only would have jurisdiction over the DPH one. But the Rules Committee has said we do this, and so it's whatever. So it's
I
in
would
his
say-
hands. It's in his hands.
Well, this is a hyper-technical point, but I think that an alleged violation of the LGBT bylaw would be evidence of violation of the DPH bylaw.
Okay. Yes. Very good. All right. So very
You
good.
have to rule, so the rule, so it's your, she made a point of order, have to rule, not well taken.
Not
That's
well
what you're
taken. I understood you. Not well taken. Okay. Sorry. Okay. What's next? Let's go to the agenda. Okay, now I'd like to end this meeting in as soon as possible. So affirmative action committee report. I've posted the affirmative action committee report right here. Do OCC AP 88. What I call it? Just hold on. I know I'm taking up time. OCC. I'm just going to call that. And do that. Let's see. There it is. Sure. Okay. So what do you want to do? Oh, So, okay, so I'm calling on Vice Chair Lemomi to give her report.
Yes. Mahalo, Chair. So the Affirmative Action Committee, we're pleased to report several activities since October 2018. The two main things that we did was the OCC Affirmative Action Plan, which appears here, but given the time, we will not go over this today. I think the chair has it posted, so if everyone can look at it, and we'll just postpone action till the next meeting, because this will take a little while for us to review. The only thing I want to say about this affirmative action plan is that the committee has observed that the Oahu County Board or Executive Committee is made up of, I think, all men, maybe one woman. And so one of the things you're going to see in the affirmative action plan is a requirement to explore a change to our bylaws that would require the chair and vice chair positions to be elected together, and that the two candidates be of separate genders. Okay, so that's one thing that's in this plan that calls for us to explore that. We're not recommending that now. We just want to explore the pros and cons of that, and then get back with the recommendation. The other thing I would like to point out is that there are neighborhood board elections going on, and we would ask all district chairs to please reach out and try to get more members to run for the neighborhood board positions, and especially the underrepresented groups in our party. Okay, and then the other thing is we did the Martin Luther King Parade. I hope some of you got to see the pictures and all. Yeah, it was a great experience, and we have recommendations on it, but not for action today. The chair can take it and pass it to the next chair for consideration by the next person who handles the affirmative action. Okay, that's my report for today. Mahalo.
Thank you.
Okay.
Very good. And then we have the Legislative Committee report. Melody.
Okay, aloha. Melody is the Chair of the Oahu County Committee on Legislative Priorities. I have submitted a quite extensive report. Some of you have a hard copy, otherwise it is on the website. There are 4 bills that OCCLP did submit. However, only one appears to have been introduced. And that's also on the website under EAEIS requirement bill.
Sorry, wait a minute. I gotta
So
share
there,
this. I gotta
for
share this.
anyone who wants to read that, that one is based on Huhulua.
Is it the EIS or the
The
okay,
EIS.
it's this one.
Yeah, that's the one, that's the one. So basically what the OCCLP did was take language that was drafted by Henry Curtis of Life of the Land and added some preamble to it, which was based on the state platform. Okay, and made it much more of a justification for the passage of this bill. It was picked up by Representative Richard Regan from the House, as well as Senator Kai Ali'i Kahele in the Senate. But I have to say that a lot of the legwork was done by Kuhan and her group from the Hawaii County. Okay.
Do you have bill numbers?
Actually, I don't have the numbers. I apologize for that. I've only been informed that it has been introduced, and I haven't checked.
Did you say at the top?
No, well, that was actually the draft that was submitted, and I'm not sure what it was originally, what it was decked at. Chair, in addition, OCCLP has held several forums on Huhulua, and there's also the clip. You could see the clip if that's possible. And we've also, the did Red Hill, a big forum on Red Hill, all held here. DPH and Oahu County Democrats were all invited. The second one, Chair. Not that one.
Yeah, okay, they need to set up for the next meeting. So the links are here. There's one here, and there's one.
A controversial power plant slated to open on Hawaii Island has some Oahu County politicians concerned.
That, and there's another one here. This one, is this the second one?
Yeah, no, that's Hulua, so down
Okay.
further, it's on Red Hill.
Yeah, sure. Okay, here. This is the
Yeah,
Honolulu. So there, it's right here. It's click on legislative committee report, and their links are there. One link, two links.
That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, yes. Very good. Ken, you have something to say?
Okay, real quick. I know this isn't something that's house related, but this is a county. So this is Oahu County Council. Bill 77, which increases the fares for the buses. If you don't want that to pass, I advise you to, amongst yourself, to go and write an opposition, because right now it's going to go from what it is to almost triple the amount. So this would be like $15 for a day pass. It'd be $120 a month. Oh, this is for the monthly. I don't know about how it affects everybody and different things like that, but just something to take a look at. And that's it. Bill 77. That was introduced by Ernie Martin. That's it.
Okay, are there any other announcements?
Honolulu City Council.
Yes. Mike.
To let you know that Rainbow Family 808 is working with the Democratic Party. And even though the federal government's gone back to work, they're still collecting food items. There's a lot of different groups. I know a lot of unions are doing it too, but we are too. But you bring things here, food items, we get them over to the Coast Guard. We already took our first shipment over to them yesterday out to Sand Island. And people from the new ship are there collecting that stuff to pass out to others. And there were a couple ladies there. So they're still going to need things because in 3 weeks they may be out again. So
they probably will. Okay, are there any other announcements? Hearing none, meeting adjourned.
Yeah.